Welcome to Going Ringside. So glad you could be here. I am your host, Scott Johnson, and we usually run a taped open, which says we talk about the world of professional wrestling. Well, we're not, because as you know on the show, we also talk boxing, UFC, MMA, and today we're talking MMA. So I didn't want to confuse you, because that man right there, Jason Mayhem Miller, is in studio with us today. So excited to be here with the MMA star, the guy who used to host Bully Beatdown back in the day, if you remember that old show. And he is now, last check, is on the Adam Carolla show. He is the news guy. So essentially we got two newsmen, maybe from a bit of a different genre. I do the news, as you know, so does Jason Mayhem Miller on the Adam Carolla show. So he came to join us here at our studio, traveled from Los Angeles out to Florida, and we were excited to sit down with him and chat about all the things he's doing. And the big thing I wanted to ask him about is this MVP program, which we're going to talk about in a bit. Great program he's involved with. So we were so excited to sit down with this really becoming fighting legend, and now TV show host and podcast newsman, and he's kind of a multimedia phenomenon, because seldom do you see those guys from the fight world who transcend the fight world and then spawn it into a massive media career, which he has done for several years now. And we were so happy to sit down with him and chat with him about what's going on in his world. So let's get to it. Here is Jason Mayhem Miller. Well, we're going to bring some mayhem on the show today. Jason Mayhem Miller. Sir, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me on Jacksonville's finest show. I'm telling you right.
We appreciate it. Yeah. So you're here out of LA, is that right?
I am, man. I'm, dealing with the wildfire situation. God bless everybody out there. Yeah. And I'm happy to be ducking and diving and breathing fresh air over here in Jacksonville, but I'm gonna head back and be taking care of a lot of friends.
Is your home okay?
My home's okay.
Okay.
I am, by the will of God, my home's okay, but a lot of friends are not so lucky.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure. Have you been in touch with a lot of people?
I have, yeah. I'm like, this phone is spazzing out right now. In my pocket, I can feel it.
Really? Okay. So talk to me about what brought you to our neck of the woods, out to Florida. MVP, what is it?
MVP is the Merging Vets and Players Association. What we do is we take guys who are former professional athletes, a lot of NFL alumni come to the program, and veterans who have gotten out of the service or even active duty. We have some guys that are active duty, and we try to help them make that transition from the life of a prize fighter, in my case, an NFL player or a service member, and try to transition to that civilian life in an easy way.
So explain that to me, because I've talked to people who are in that world. It's so different. You're traveling all over. You're just in this world that's almost its own subculture. What's it like to just get back into regular life?
But for me, it was a nightmare. For me, I went from the fight world to crime because I had no other way to really make it. I didn't have any structure in my life.
Let me back up. What do you mean? You went from...
I got a bar fight and did some time, but serious time.
Really?
And nothing would shake me out of this mindset until I found MVP. MVP got me to be human again, because when you're pushing yourself to the limit as a mixed martial artist, you have to be a beast, animal. It's part of the game. You have to be that. And it's so hard to find that balance where you're giving yourself the maximum effort and putting in as hard work as you do every day in the cage, in the regular world, without something spinning off and going crazy. What MVP did for me was give me a home base to talk about my feelings. As a tough guy as the sport of mixed martial arts is and football is, there's a big gap in our world once you leave that career.
It reminds me of vets.
Yes,
yeah.
Veterans go through worse. Yeah. Having buddies die or, having to do what is necessary as a veteran. My father went through that too, PTSD, the whole thing.
I want to clarify that. So when I think of vet, I can visualize in my mind coming back from a war and going to Walmart or something. Talk to me about what's that like for a fighter.
For me, it was the grocery store. This is my life now? I'm standing in front of Cocoa Puffs? No. It's very hard to transitioned back. And like I said, for me, I fell into drinking and getting wild, doing crazy things because I didn't have this like community anymore. I just was like lost, kind of trying to find my way. And MVP like set me back on the right path where, okay, now I have somewhere to be every Wednesday. In LA, our chapter goes every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I'm showing up and there's somebody there who has a shared experience, has gone through tough stuff like I have, and it's okay to talk with them. And man, I'm so thankful.
What's it like interacting with, like you mentioned the supermarket, the checker, and the woman asking for if you want to buy cookies?
Nightmare, yeah.
It is?
Yeah, well, it's just weird. Like, okay, when you're on top of the world in a fight sense, like, there's this weird, bizarre thing. You got everybody doing everything for you kind of thing. And then once that settles down and like you transition out of that, there's a big gap. It feels like lonely and like everything is like quieter.
Really?
And yeah, and it's tough. It's tough. I don't know. I think a lot of guys can transition fine. Some guys can. I couldn't. A lot of service members go through really tough things, and it takes more, for lack of a better term, therapy. I think that our society, American culture, is missing this thing where it's okay to get in a group of people and vent. And just, even if you don't want any feedback, just talk about how you feel and talk about what's going on in your life, because sometimes you figure out the answer on your own.
I want to ask you about other things in your life. Beyond that, what is going on in your life back in LA? You're involved with Adam Carolla now.
I do the Adam Carolla show every day. He hired me as the newsman. That was one of those things that could only come because I probably was an MVP. Because an MVP, I got back to normal, and like I said, there's a lot of talking involved, and I was chatterboxing with everybody and getting used to, verbalizing what I feel and what I think. And I went on Adam Carolla's show because we're, from my fight days, we're old buddies. He had me on Love Line way back in the day.
Love Line? That is a ways back.
Love Line. So that's how long I was fighting. I was fighting way back then.
Yeah.
And, he had me on to talk about what's been going on with me. And that evolved into, hey, you know what? Come do the news. And I did the news. And so now
as a guy who's done the news for 30 years,
right?
You don't fit the typical standard.
As a fellow newsman, I appreciate you.
Yeah. So do you enjoy it?
I do. It's not as much serious business like you where we're just reporting just the facts, ma'am, just the facts.
I get it.
We crack wise. Give a little intro, outro. It's a podcast, baby. It's the original podcast, I believe.
I got to ask you about, it is the original. I got to interrupt you because something you said before we went on, you mentioned I was going to challenge Jake Paul or something like that.
Well, no, I'm just saying, you asked me, when did I retire? And I went, I don't even know if I did officially. I didn't sign nothing. Like, I'll fight Jake Paul tomorrow if they let me.
What are your thoughts on what's happened with that?
I think it's brilliant. I would have done the same thing if our internet connection speeds were fast enough to justify YouTube back then. I was on that same wavelength, but with MySpace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like a different time where you promote yourself through regular channels. I would be on the radio or I'd be on TV. Nowadays, it's brilliant. You say what you want about Jake Paul, but he definitely figured out how to be a fight promoter and a fighter at the same time. And, he's living the dream.
I'm going to ask it. I know it's not PC. Was it rigged?
Was
it rigged?
Rigged.
Everyone talks.
Schmig. Look, here's what I said.
Mike was like this.
I was like the first guy to go, ooh, man, Mike Tyson might get killed. And everyone was like, what? Mayhem is insane and an idiot. But then slowly people were like, oh, yeah, Mike Tyson is like, didn't we watch him when Mr. T was on TV? Yeah, we did.
Yes.
So that was like back in the day. I was like, guys, 27-year-old Mayhem would smash 44-year-old Mayhem. I guarantee you. Like, that's just how Father Time works. And
do you think Mike would have destroyed him in his prime?
Oh,
quickly?
my God. Ripped his head off, maybe punched it into the 15th row. Mike Tyson, look, I like that Mike got in there. He's a true warrior. He's a damn, you can't take nothing from Mike. Mike is a serious fighter and has been the whole time. Jake Paul, not quite the level of fighter as a prime Mike Tyson, but a clever guy. Clever guy. But half of boxing is promotion. Floyd Mayweather, we refer to him as the greatest of all time, but we forget that he did some footwork outside the ring too to avoid guys at the right time, just to make sure his legacy was intact 50-0.
Did MMA, I mean, obviously what happened with Tyson, Paul's big. Did MMA kind of destroy boxing?
I wouldn't say destroyed it, but it gave an outlet for the bloodlust that us Americans naturally have.
Yeah.
We love fights. Like, the hockey game will stop so that we can watch this fight. There's something that's beautiful about fighting that we all appreciate, and mixed martial arts has distilled it down into exactly what we want. Like, we want a gentleman's street fight. We want a street fight with some rules, but I think that what it did was give a different outlet. Now, boxing is its own thing. It's to be respected. The rules are much different, and it's beautiful to watch. But kickboxing with wrestling, with jiu-jitsu, like, that gives like a more, there's something for everybody in that.
One guy we've had on the show a lot has been Ken Shamrock. Back in the day, old
legendary
school guy.
guy.
Legendary
we love
guy.
him, yeah.
And he was talking to me about there's been a lot of differences with gloves, bare knuckle. Is that a big thing kind of in the industry?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I'll just be honest with you. I've been in that cage. They put a brick on your hand. Like, it's you got a hand wrap, and it's dangerous business. With bare knuckle fighting, you got to be safe with those punches. You gotta, it's a very brutal sport. The cuts are really nasty looking, but yeah, it makes it so that the punches are a little, you gotta pick your shots.
And before we go, what are your thoughts on Jon Jones? Best in the world?
I mean, obviously, Jon Jones has proven himself time and time again at 205. As a heavyweight, he beat an older Stipe, okay, and he beat Cyril Gane, who's I think he's a white belt at jiu-jitsu. I really don't think he knows any grappling that much. He's a fantastic kickboxer, one of the best kickboxers of all time. But as a heavyweight, Jon Jones has some things to prove, I think. The big test, I think, if Tom Aspinall fights Jon Jones, this will be an unlocking. He is a true heavy. If he can get past Tom Aspinall, okay, I think he's cemented his legacy as this era's heavyweight of all time.
And before we go, how do people find MVP if they're interested?
I think it's emergentfitsandplayers.com.
So they just look it up. They'll find it,
Yeah, just look it up. They have a great Instagram that follows all the guys. It's a fantastic program. If you're a veteran or if you're a former professional athlete, please come to the gym and check us out.
Jason Mayhem Miller, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure.
God bless you, sir.
And let me get you the exact web address. It's actually vetsandplayers.org is how you can check out that. And of course, if you look up MVP online, just Google, you'll probably find it. But vetsandplayers.org. I want to thank Jason Mayhem Miller for joining us on the show today. He's going back to Los Angeles. Our prayers with our folks out there because they're dealing with so much right now, of course. And we'll see where he goes from here. And I want to point this out. We do so much on Going Ringside about the pro wrestling world. Obviously, it's our bread and butter. But we're trying to do more and more about MMA, UFC, boxing, all the fight world. So keep an eye out on us for more of that in coming weeks. But thank you for joining us for this episode of Going Ringside. I'm Scott Johnson. We'll see you back here next time.
This has been Going Ringside with The Local Station. Brought to you every Wednesday on your favorite podcast player. On New Sport Jacks Plus, as well as the New Sport Jacks YouTube channel.